Good morning, Santa Clarita. You're listening to your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. I am attorney Wade Skalsky, and this is Wade Beyond the Courtroom. On the board with me today is Mike. Mike, how are you?
I am also beyond the courtroom.
You are? Excellent. Yes, you are not in a courtroom or in custody, as we like to say.
No, thank goodness for that.
Yes, but you're
Can you imagine the scandal?
That's right.
Wade's morning guy.
That's right. But I could come and help you in that situation.
Thank you. Appreciate
So today on Wade Beyond the Courtroom, you're going to be in the custody of sophistication, my friend, because we are going to up the cultural level of the show. Besides talking about crime and criminals and the law, today I have a very special guest for us. We're going to be speaking in a moment with Ben Hill, who is the festival director of the Fringe Festival this June in Hollywood. So I don't want to waste any time, and I want to go. A little drop-in sound effect.
Little studio audience today.
It must be a special guest for that. So, Ben, can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly.
Great. Well, we are so excited to have you in the studio today. Thank you for joining us. How are you?
I am fantastic.
Good. Well, listen, I want to kind of let's get right into it. And what exactly is the Fringe Festival, Ben?
Well, that's a great question. Well, the first answer is that it's spelled F-R-I-N-G-E, not French or French or anything like that.
Okay.
It is a fringe festival. Fringes are an interesting thing. They started. It's actually a worldwide phenomenon. The style of festival, which can be described as an open access style of festival, which means that anyone, be you a baker or a candlesmith or a touring artist or a super celebrity or, say, an attorney with a radio show.
Do we know any of those? Are there any of those around?
There's a little shout-out there for you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
How about radio producers?
Radio producers, we welcome them.
Okay.
Absolutely. We draw the line at doormen, though. Absolutely no doormen.
No doormen. And so it's an open source festival for theater, right?
Exactly. Well, we say the performing arts because it includes dancing and clowning and cabaret and variety and circus and all these things as well. What it isn't is a film festival, which is, as the Los Angeles area is well served, I think, in the realm of film festivals.
Absolutely. Now, what are the origins of the festival? And I know that we have the festival this year in Hollywood. Did it start in Hollywood?
It did not, actually. It started before I was born, I think before you were born, in 1947, over in Edinburgh, Scotland, a place I've been to quite a few times. So there was this big war, World War II.
I've heard of that war.
As many of us.
There's a movie or a book. Yeah, there's a movie or book or two on that. Okay.
Yeah, it's a couple. And after this war, the Europeans felt that they needed to stage some sort of festival to promote healing through art. This was not the Fringe Festival. This was a festival that's still around called the Edinburgh International Festival, or EIF. It was a big deal. Made a lot of headlines of the various papers at the time. A lot of people wanted to go, and a lot of artists wanted to participate. But because it was a curated festival, meaning that, old men with beards decide who joins the festival, a lot of these people, a lot of these artists, these artistic groups, these theater companies, etc., couldn't join.
So is it fair to say then that because it was curated, there was a specific point of view that may have been being put forward by the Edinburgh Festival at that time, and then so if you had a different view or maybe a different creative vision, you weren't getting into the festival?
Absolutely, and that's the way it is with most curated events, right? There's, deliberate or not, there is an aesthetic, there is an idea that they want to get across, and if you fall outside the bounds of this aesthetic or this idea, then you don't get to participate. So 8 companies that first year in 1947 set up camp along the fringes of the Edinburgh International Festival and staged their own show, almost like a sit-in protest. And those 8 companies were the beginning of what would become the largest arts event in the world today, which is the Edinburgh Festival Fringe, in that it is still on the fringe of this curated festival. But now we're talking about, good God, I think it was 800, 900 shows over the course, over the last year.
Wow.
Giant arts events, largest arts event in the world. And this concept of open access art, which I think is just fun, it was like wildfire all across Europe, hit Australia, Canada, and of course the United States. And then in 2010, we started the Hollywood Fringe Festival, and that's sort of the genesis of the whole thing.
So how many Fringe festivals would you say roughly there are through the year?
Oh, man. To venture a guess, I would say that there are 70 or 80 across the world.
So if you're talking, let's say 70, and I was told there'd be no math on today's show, but let's say that you're talking 70 festivals, and maybe you have 200 shows a festival. It's what is that, 14,000 shows?
Yes,
that's a whole lot of shows.
And
yep.
and that's a whole lot of different points of view.
Oh yeah, and that's sort of the idea, right? I mean, it gives you that like when you go to a Fringe festival, you're seeing like a moment in time in art where because they're generally so vast, because there's no old men with beards and rooms in tall buildings determining who gets in and who doesn't get in, you end up seeing this wonderful cross section of art. And because the shows are generally on the shorter side, because they're generally on the less expensive side, you can go to 4 or 5 shows a day and just bounce around from venue to venue to venue, having a good time, not spending a lot of money, maybe drinking along the way. We encourage that.
Great.
You get to have a fun time. It's just fun.
Well, listen, that's fantastic. So when we come back from the break, I would love to ask you about how you got involved with being the Fringe Festival director and starting the Fringe here in Hollywood. You're listening to Santa Clarita's hometown station, AM 1220, KHTS. I'm attorney Wade Skalsky, and this is Wade Beyond the Courtroom. Welcome back, Santa Clarita. You're listening to your hometown station, AM 1220, KHTS. I am attorney Wade Skalsky, and this is Wade Beyond the Courtroom. We're speaking with Ben Hill, festival director of the Hollywood Fringe Festival, where you can find information on hollywoodfringe.org. Again, that's www.hollywoodfringe.org. So, Ben, do I have you back?
You do.
So the Hollywood Fringe Festival then is a relatively new Fringe Festival. Is that true?
Yeah, actually, I would say this is our 6th year. Obviously, we're not hitting the Edinburgh starting in 1947 level quite yet. A lot of Australian festivals started in the 70s and 80s. Canada's had a lot of festivals for a while. We're relatively new, but because we planned for 3 years and because the Los Angeles area is such a fantastic place for talent, we actually launched our 2010 festival immediately as one of the largest in the world. And depending on how you judge the size of festivals, we judge it by number of shows, number of performances. We're the largest open access festival in the United States.
Oh, wow.
That's amazing.
Now, do you go to other festivals and get ideas for your festival as well? You mentioned Canada and other places in the country that have this.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned the 3-year planning period, and the entire first year and a half was basically really this navel gazing about what the model should be. So we ended up going to a bunch of festivals. What really clicked it was when we visited Edinburgh. I know I've mentioned this a couple times, only because going to Edinburgh in August is like visiting one of the wonders of the world. It's like everyone there. And we're talking about crowds and crowds and crowds and crowds of people are there to see art, participate in the festival, and it's just amazing. So being there amongst that energy and excitement, I think that my then girlfriend, now wife, and I were just inspired by all of that. This total entrepreneurial style that Edinburgh has going on, and that's when we decided to bring that particular model of Fringe Festival to Los Angeles. So. I get a lot of inspiration from other festivals, and there's just so many wonderful things that really going to festivals is so much fun.
Well, Ben, I just think that's amazing because when my wife and I travel, we go, oh, we're going to try more French food when we get home. Do you know what I'm saying? Like that's how we're inspired to do things. But and so you went to this festival in Edinburgh. You thought about it, and then so you and your wife said we're going to start this in Hollywood. Is that a fair assessment?
Absolutely. I mean, we knew that we were going to start something in Hollywood when we moved here in 2007. Mm-hmm. And we were sort of looking for inspiration of what to do. We knew that Los Angeles didn't have a Fringe Festival, so any smart entrepreneur, they see a gap in the market, they look to fill it, and I think we just got lucky with this. And 2 years later, and then we launched with close to 200 shows, and This year, we're up to close to 300. So it's all about, getting that inspiration, acting on it.
Yeah, and I can also tell you, too, is that you really, I have met a lot of the principal players that work for the Fringe Festival, the staff, including your wife and other people like Con Matu and Megan McCauley and a bunch of others who at this moment I'm forgetting, so don't get mad at me. And I can tell you that what you described as that open source and that totally supportive and that creative vibe, it really does exist in your festival. I mean, there's such a variety of shows and viewpoints, and there's no, I think you guys have a saying, and I'll let you say, what is the number one saying that you guys have for your show that is the number one rule?
The number one rule in the Hollywood Fringe Festival is don't be a jerk.
That's right. That's right. And that's so, not L.A. Do you know what I mean?
And that's so not you, Wade.
I know, right? Exactly, yes. That's actually beside it was the first name of the show was Wade Beyond the Courtroom, but before that it was God, I Like Being a Jerk. That was the first name of the show,
and not the Steve Martin jerk.
Good, that's right. Yeah. Exactly. So Ben, let's talk a little bit about the festival itself this year. So the types of shows that you have range all the way from puppet shows to musicals. What else is going on?
Oh yeah, I mean, if you can think of it, that's what happens when you have these open source, open access festivals. It's just that you get the entire range. You get people doing a show for the first time. You get people who've been doing theater and the performing arts for decades, people who live in Los Angeles, people who tour all over the world. You have, B-level celebrities to absolute, nobody's trying to make their big break on it. You get, as you say, from a genre perspective, you've got comedy, cabaret, variety, burlesque, circus, opera, musical theater, it goes on and on and on and on. So that's what it is to me. Is the way I see it is that theater has, and this is important. Theater has gotten into this perspective where it's a serious, topical thing where you go to and it's heavy art and it's incredibly expensive. And certainly we have serious themes at the Hollywood Fringe, but one of the things as far as the experience of going to the festival is we're trying to put play back in plays,
right?
Trying to put the fun back into it.
And it sounds very organic, like it takes on a life of its own.
Oh my God! Every year, that's the thing. I get asked every year, well, how are you different than last year? And the answer is entirely. They're just naturally, there will be themes developing because of things happening in the world or sort of in the world of art. And as a result, you have these really violent changes from year to year to year to year, which is really exciting to me. We're not pushing an aesthetic or an ideal or a brand or anything like that. What we're pushing is this is what's happening in the world of the performing arts right now. And it's because you're throwing all of these different shows at a wall, and you can go and see all of them. They're all different, unique, snowflakey. It's just really exciting, really fun.
Well, I can't wait when we come back from the break. We're going to talk a little bit more and unpack the festival a little bit more and getting down into specifics about how do you go to this thing. So you're listening to Santa Clarita's hometown station, AM 1220. I am Wade Skalsky, and this is Wade Beyond the Courtroom. Welcome back, Santa Clarita. You're listening to your hometown station, AM 1220. This is Wade Beyond the Courtroom. I'm speaking with Festival Director Ben Hill of the Fringe Festival. So, Ben, let's talk a little bit just about mechanics. How does the festival work if I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to go to the festival? When is it?
Sure, and that's a pretty important question. We have previews from June 4th to June 9th, and then a big opening party at the Dragonfly on June 10th. And then the festival proper runs from June 11th to June 28th. So it's basically the entire month of June. So
if you wanted to come to the opening party, would you buy tickets to that, or how does that work?
Oh, you can just show up at the opening party. That's on June 10th, starting at 6:30 or 7. By all means, show up. You just need a button to get in. We'll sell you a button. That button actually becomes a pretty important thing. It's a physical thing. You put on your shirt, dress, what have you. You can walk around, and it'll give you $1 off on every show. It'll give you discounted drinks at the Fringe Central Bar. And then this is great, we have a program called the Hotspots. It's how we engage with the local small business community. So if you go to hollywoodfringe.org/hotspots, you'll actually be able to see a lot of bars, clubs, restaurants, et cetera, vendors of all different shapes and sizes that also give you discounts when you have the button. So the button becomes your like community badge.
And then also, too, you guys publish an actual Fringe guide that has all of the shows and showtimes, and those can be picked up where?
Right. So during the Fringe Festival, you can go to any Fringe venue, and you can pick up a Fringe guide. Additionally, we distribute through theaters all through Los Angeles. So if you're at a theater that uses one of our media partners' footlights, one of their programs, then the likelihood is you'll be able to pick one up there as well.
Well, and I think it's really important to know, as I was talking to Mike at the break, is that there's such a wide variety of types of shows, all the way from the most conservative to the totally outlandish, that anyone wanting to go to a show will be able to find multiple shows in their wheelhouse that they want to go see. Is that fair to say?
Oh, that's absolutely fair to say. We have shows from every subject you can imagine, from the extremely reverent religious side to the not so reverent, from the politically conservative to the politically liberal. Because we open this up to anyone with a point of view can come, and we encourage discussion and feedback and all those things to keep the community tied in, because that's what we see ourselves as like a. Do you know, like in the early 20th century when everyone hung out in France in coffee houses and stuff like that, and that's where a lot of art was created? We see the Fringe as like one big coffee house. Maybe it's more beer than coffee, but like you can go talk directly to the artist. You can go to Fringe Central, which is at the Dragonfly Club at 6510 Santa Monica. That's like the Santa Monica Boulevard. That's like the central bar. And you can see people from all over the Fringe Festival, even from shows that you just saw, and you can walk up to them and talk to them about it, get their point of view, argue, compliment, etc., whatever you want to do. But that's kind of the beauty of this whole thing, is because we're all like crunched in right there in Hollywood, and we've got dozens of venues right there to hop around. It's all very compact, and you feel like you're a part of this artistic community. Even if all you're doing is going to see and enjoy shows, you're still a part of that community.
I'm curious how many folks go to see the shows and decide next year they want to be in their show themselves.
Oh, man, we get that a lot. We get people who are in shows that meet each other in Fringe and that didn't know each other at all, and then decide to do a show together the next year. And then the next year they incorporate and start an actual company and start giving back to the community.
Love it.
Year-round.
That's great.
I have to tell you, Ben, that I've started to have contact with both the staff from Fringe and a lot of the people doing shows this year, because I've participated in some of the events that are leading up to the Fringe Festival, and the sense of community, the sense of collaboration, the sense of creative support, and just personal support. It really is. It's such a welcoming community. And I have to just say kudos to you and your staff just for creating that culture and then making sure that your no jerks rule keeps into effect. So
I take people out before.
Yeah, well, no, and then it's just such a
no, you need to go.
Yeah, it's such a fantastic idea.
So you've got a sign that says "We have the right to refuse," or one of those signs like shirts and shoes required, or something like that.
We actually had a sign just like that, and in the bottom it said, "And absolutely no jerks are allowed." And that's actually what was the genesis of that. It came from a sign.
Nice.
Well, it's just such a fantastic cultural, I guess, event and resource for people in LA that, HollywoodFringe.org is where you can also buy tickets as well.
Absolutely. HollywoodFringe.org. We also have mobile apps up on the App Store. And if you want to buy tickets from someone in person, once the Fringe begins, we always have a box office at the Fringe Central at 6510 Santa Monica Boulevard. And then, of course, you can go directly to the actual venue and buy tickets there as well.
Now, the app, if I wanted to get the Hollywood Fringe app, what do I search under the Play Store?
Hollywood Fringe on the Play Store, Hollywood Fringe Festival on the Play Store, or on the iOS App Store.
And that has everything on it, like you can browse the shows, you can buy tickets, it has a map, all of that.
Exactly.
And I think it's important to know, too, that a lot of these theaters are walkable distance from Fringe Central this year, right?
That is, part of the conceit of the whole thing, and it allows you as a patron to go and see show by show by show by show in a serial way, which is how I like to do it. And what will happen is, you see 5 shows. Like 2 shows you'll think are pretty good. 2 shows you'll think, oh, okay, I probably could have missed those, but I'm only out, like $18 or something like that. And then you'll see 1 show that'll stick with you, and it'll change you a little bit, because that's what art does. You go see an art, especially like a front up in-person art like you see with theater. And it does have the power to change you, to change your outlook, to change your perspective. And I know that there's been a lot of shows that I've seen that have done that to me. And one of the great things about Fringe festivals is you can see show. So the likelihood of seeing that show that's going to stick with you and make a personal impact is that much higher.
Well, great. I'm really excited to participate this year in the festival, to go to shows and really experience it for the first time myself. If you're interested in finding tickets or more information, you can go to hollywoodfringe.org. And Ben, I just really want to thank you for coming in today. What a pleasure to speak with you and learn about basically you and your whole pirate crew out there putting this festival on.
Thanks so much, guys. Really had a great time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. You're listening to Santa Clarita's hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. I am attorney Wade Skalsky, and this is Wade Beyond the Courtroom.